Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. As always, proudly in association with Annie's Man Club. Let's remember, it is okay to talk. Tonight, we are 67% British, 33% Irish. As usual, we're still 100% Giants. And no, tonight isn't another therapy session. Get in. Big Blue, upset the form guide. Doesn't happen very often, does it? We walked away from the Pacific Northwest with a hugely impressive 29-20 victory against the Seattle Seahawks, against a 3-1 Seattle Seahawks, against a pretty good offense in the Seattle Seahawks to improve to 2-3 record on the season. And also back from the Pacific Northwest, freshly off a red-eye flight. I'm joined by Kev and Craig to break down that win, which wasn't predicted by any of us. So maybe we need to all pick against the Giants every week, and we'll carry on this winning streak. Maybe I'm putting it down to that. Just saying, lads. What a game! What performance! How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Glad to be back on the show. It feels like I haven't been on the show for a long time now. But I mean, what a way to come back on to be able to discuss, a fantastic win away from home. We seem to be better, more of a road warriors team this year. I think we're getting more of that feel as opposed to winning games at home. But hey, long may it continue. You know, a win's a win. And we actually done that in quite good fashion. I mean, we'll break it down, but a lot to be pleased about with that game.
It's interesting. You say that, Kev, about are we a road team kind of thing? Because there has been a lot of talk about that in the last few days, actually, about the fact that the Giants do tend to win more away from home than at home, especially Daniel Jones, if you compare him to a lot of the other big quarterbacks. I think there's a piece on the Big Blue View website where they've gone into depth about it, so it's well worth a kind of look at that. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to talk about a win, and not just like a bog standard win, like a pretty dominant win, to be honest. And that's the most surprising thing, that none of us saw it coming.
No, I mean, that scoreline at the bottom of the screen doesn't tell the story of the game whatsoever. It was, for a good sort of 3/4 of that game, it was a dominant performance by this team in all three phases. Obviously, a bit of garbage time, a bit of no huddle offense. The Seahawks were getting a few yards sort of towards the end of the game, but overall, what a performance all round really is. I mean, I lost count of the amount of times I put that gif in the group chat of Dwight Schrute from The Office saying what's going on, because it's just it just doesn't happen very often with us. And over the last few years we've had our fair share of awful games. So to be on this side of things is it's an unusual feeling, but it's one I'll definitely have week in, week out if it carries on. Lots to get into this about the game, obviously, tonight. Get your thoughts and comments and everything in the thoughts and questions and everything in the comments as you already are. Thanks to those that are commenting already. Mayonnaise, yes, you predicted the Giants win. We know that, but and like I said, I think we're going to all pick against the Giants every week now, and so that will help to carry on our winning streak for sure. If you're watching live on YouTube, X, Twitch, Facebook, wherever you're watching, get involved and also give us your opinions about the game. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. And also feel free to leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And don't forget, in just over 3 weeks, 3 short little weeks, we'll be making our way to Sports Bar and Grill at Marylebone Station for our next watch party as we host the Washington Commanders in our 2024 Legacy game, 3rd of November. Be there or be square. Now, Kev, obviously, fresh off the red-eye flight, you're looking very chipper there. Obviously, at the game on Sunday in person in Seattle. We thought, we'd give you a few minutes just to sort of talk about your experience in Seattle, in the city, and what it was like. And also, how sweet was it to silence the 12th man as well?
Mate, it was such an unbelievable experience. I mean, first and foremost, it's a beautiful city. It's like the first thing you notice when you sort of get the train into the center of town is like it's so clean, it's so like quite modern looking. It's just a really, really cool vibe. Did obviously a few of the touristy stuff. But we actually done the tour of the stadium. And that was really, really good, like that's a fantastic stadium. The only thing we couldn't get to do was locker rooms because it was the day before the game. But they do open the locker rooms up when for around the year. So so I was a little bit gutted to miss that, but got to step on the pitch and stuff as they were painting it from a soccer match the night before. Yeah, I mean, actually, like it was a really cool atmosphere, and there's a lot of Giants fans there. You could hear the Giants fans, and you could see them about town as well. And I mean, there was the area we were in. The people around us, like as soon as they heard our accents, London accents, Irish accents, stuff like that, they were so cool. They were so nice, so cordial. I mean, obviously, I wasn't going completely mental when we were doing well and stuff like that. Although I did celebrate, but everyone around us was so good, and the banter was flying, and it was just a really, really cool atmosphere. Although, some places, you get a bit of stick, but the fans around us were just so cool. Like, so, I have to give them a massive shout out for that. And they've got this new decibel meter in as well that they were trialing while we were there for the tour, and that was going above like 100 like regularly. They get loud there. You can really, really feel it, and they really, really get behind their team. So to be able to quieten them down, and then go and get ourselves a win was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the only downside was you're paying $16.50 for a pint can of beer. I mean, that just seems a little bit excessive. But I mean,
what beer?
Was it Modelo, Bud Light, and then an IPA were the options?
At least they had an IPA, I guess.
Yeah, that's they've redeemed themselves slightly with an IPA there.
But as anyone look at the pictures there, you can see like I went with my best mate, who was my best man. He's a massive Seahawks fan, and went with CJ. Who's a Patriots fan. He's sort of like balance the books a little bit there. And but yeah, no, just like I said, it was beautiful weather as well. The weather was sunny the whole weekend. I even come away with a little bit of redness around the face. I didn't take my factor 50 with me, unfortunately. But like, and the seats were reasonable as well. Like I thought we had quite decent seats, lower level of the upper tier, but they came in at like around £100. So not over the top by any means. And it was just a really good game day experience. Like I said, just everyone's so friendly, and to come away with the win there was just, I mean, it was just really, really like cool, and I highly recommend like getting to a game out there.
Can you just walk us through that bottom right picture now for the audio listeners who don't know what we're talking about? There's a picture of Julian Love with a very small Kev hugging his tummy.
So Julian Love, I mean, if you've been watching this show, or like if you've been listening, like he was one of those players that when I first started following Notre Dame, he was being recruited by them. So, I kind of followed him from high school, being recruited by Notre Dame, coming in, being a backup, a special teamer, and then being a starter and a captain, and just an absolute, like, Notre Dame legend, to be fair. And then for the Giants to draft him, I mean, I was begging for that to happen. So obviously I got myself a Julian Love jersey. And I wore that in honor of him.
Absolutely.
Wore that to the game, yeah. So and then obviously when you get the size of that poster there, I just had to give him one more hug, just to say goodbye properly.
Said your final goodbyes, and come to terms with the loss now. But no, it looks like you had a great weekend, mate. Seattle's one of those places I've always wanted to go to, so I'm mega jealous that you did go there. But I will have to get out there at some point. It looks great. All right. Shall we get into the game? Yeah, let's get into the game. Why not? I mean, where'd you start? No neighbours? No motor? No problem. Don't matter. We entered Sunday as 7-point underdogs going into the game, and between us as well, I'll openly admit this. We had the Seahawks at -7 for the game in our sort of betting syndicate. Not encouraging anyone to gamble, but we had the Seahawks as 7-point underdogs, and I mean we lost money, but we won the game. That's all that matters. And despite a huge offensive misstep, which Craig will talk about shortly, we looked efficient on offense. We were able to dominate the time of possession. I think it was nearly 38 minutes to 22 minutes, which is ludicrous. And the defense played lights out, played complementary football, and the key weapons on that Seattle offense were really held in check. And on both sides of the ball, we dominated in the trenches. We had season highs in first downs with 24, in total yards in 420, rushing yards 175. We had 5 runs of 10+ yards, which doesn't sound like much, but considering our previous 4 games and our rushing attack in the previous 4 games, a run of 10 yards is a big deal, or 10 yards plus is a big deal. And 29 points in the game as well, which, we didn't quite break that 30-point barrier that we absolutely should have done. The first drive, we'll go into that shortly, but yeah, we should have broken that 30-point barrier for the first time this year, and it didn't quite happen. But like I said, that 29-20 scoreline doesn't tell the story of the whole game at all. Plus, as well, we've been talking about it for the last 4 weeks. We had our longest completion of the season of 41 yards. Who knew that DJ can pass the ball deep? Where's that been all season? All of a sudden, it's just clicked, and he's gone, oh yeah, I can throw it deep now. And shout out to Voice of the Giants and friend of the pod, Bob Papa, for this stat. He put it on his Believe in Giants podcast. For the first time since week 16 of 2014, the Giants had a quarterback with a passer rating of 100 or more, a running back with over 100 yards rushing in a game, and a wide receiver with over 100 yards receiving in a game, in the same game, for the first time in 10 years. So that just goes to show how much of a dominant performance this game was. And, full credit to the Giants, full credit to the coaches, everybody, because none of us expected it. We were all expecting it to be a walk in the park for Seattle, where actually it turned out to almost be a walk in the park for the Giants. So amazing game all round. No interceptions either, exactly. I'm sure Craig probably got the stat in the offensive talk about DJ over his last 4 games, so I'll let him talk about that. But interceptions, they're not happening at the moment, so it's beautiful. But yeah, Craig, offense. Yeah, Brian, evening, mate. Can't score in the red zone. Yeah, that is one of the big things that we can't seem to do, or can't seem to sort of get over that hurdle, is finish in the red zone. But we'll talk more about that. Craig, offense. Let's go.
I'm just gonna start with Kieran saying, I know he isn't here to defend himself, but do you think our recent O-line improvement has anything to do with Shane no longer being considered as our guru? Just a thought. We addressed that.
I mean,
think.
facts are facts.
He's now a defensive guru, and look at our down defense. Just saying.
Yeah, he's always been a defensive man at heart, hasn't he? Right.
Exactly.
So anybody who watched or listened to Friday's preview pod, when I had a look at the offense, I said that there were 2 keys to this game. How do we score without Singletary, and how do we score without Nabers? And I think we got our answer pretty comprehensively.
That's how you do it.
Sunday's game. Right, let's get we're doing a little bit of shit sandwich here. We do bad, good, bad, good. So it started badly. We had DJ being clipped and obviously fumbling. I think he was clipped by Andrew Thomas, weirdly. It was an Andrew Thomas sack. But he kind of fumbled the ball, and then you're thinking, here we go. And then we just methodically just marched down the other end of the field. And in there, we kind of, we had 2 great screen passes. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had 2 great screen passes in a game, let alone on back-to-back plays.
18 yards and 17 yards consecutively.
Yeah, 37 yards. 37 yards completely. And then obviously we found out that tight ends are eligible receivers when they get downfield as well. So we were able to start passing to our tight end. So it was really good.
Who knew?
And then I mean, I'm pretty sure Mayo has said it already. I'm just going to scroll back up. 36-13. Now I know what he's referencing here. He's referencing the fact that because of the fact that we were the fourth TV game or whatever, and Biz was covering this really well on the Giant Insider podcast, basically saying that they don't have as many cameras at these games like they do with the ones that Brady's going through. So, they weren't able to find a camera angle that gave them conclusive evidence that it was definitely over the line. I've watched it back so many times. It is over the line. I mean, it is. What my biggest frustration, and I tweeted this out during the game, was the fact that Eric Gay was holding the ball like this, like he was cushioning it on both sides, and I just don't get how that's secure. Because he was it wasn't like he had his hands wrapped around it; it was like cushioned, and it wasn't a great way of holding it. And you're asking for trouble there, but it is a touchdown really, but. 102 yards the other way for a touchdown for the Seahawks, their longest ever fumble return in the team history, and you kind of think to yourself, well, Giants doing Giants things. Yeah.
So Giantsy.
Yeah. But there were plenty of positive signs. Darius Slayton, for one, I know Kev's going to cover him in a minute. Wandale was a bit up and down, maybe. We saw a little bit of an emergence from Theo and obviously a few other players. Drops are still an issue. We need to clean that up for sure. We have one by Slayton. Some publications are saying 2 by Wandale. I think PFF have it as 1. I can't remember. I thought there were 2 by Wandale myself. And then there was also 1 by Gray. We lead the league in 14 drops through 5 games, which is not great. And that's not going to help, the narrative around DJ, who, let's be honest, was absolutely solid during the game. And, we do our players of the game, and spoiler alert, one of us has picked him for later. But, DJ was efficient. I wouldn't say he put the team on his back, but he definitely put it on his shoulder pads for a little bit, and with some of the runs that he was putting in there. So,
learn to slide.
The worst thing about the drops are the fact that they've mostly been on third down. Like, they're drive killers, and that's the worst thing about these drops. But when we did connect, and the receivers and Jones did have connections throughout the game, it paid dividends. Jones connected on both of his passes of 20+ yards during the game, both to Slayton, 1 to the left, 1 to the right. The 41-yarder was absolutely dropped into the bucket in perfect spot, which, as Dan is rightly pointing out, was then called back for a 15-yard penalty because apparently you can't do that. Yeah, I'm not sure. But, Slayton also had that crossbody touchdown, which Dabes after the game said he wasn't even the first read on. Wandale was the first read. He was covered. DJ improvised with a crossbody throw that was probably one of the best throws I think I've seen him make in years. So it was amazing just to kind of see how well the offense clicks. So obviously that's the biggest takeaways. Kev's going to go through a few of the players sort of a bit more in depth, but it did show we can have a functional passing attack without Nabers. But 2, it really showed that Tracy deserves more carries behind Singletary, maybe even on par with Singletary. Kev, what are your thoughts on that there?
Yeah, I mean, it's so good to see, because sometimes when you have a true alpha number 1 receiver, teams tend to feed them and sort of like try and get them the ball. And he did that to a certain extent. It was just Slayton stepped up into it this week. It's a strange one. It's like, because, well, Tracy rose high on Tracy anyway, and Singletary's solid, but he's not a star. I wouldn't say he's an absolute star. So 100% Tracy needs to get more touches there. He's proved it in an NFL game now. It's really, really good to see the ball getting spread around though, and seeing, like you said, tight ends making plays. Proper deep passes and we'll probably touch on a little bit later as well. But like plays, working out, as in like people getting open. Do you mean DJ's actually leading receivers? He led the two Slayton catches. Daniel Jones, he led the two Slayton catches. So it's just good to see, like, he's really starting to get a grasp of this offense now and starting to click with Dable, what Dable's trying to get him to do.
Dan, what do you think? I mean, obviously, we worried a little bit with Singletary being out, not knowing. It was the unknown, wasn't it? It was the unknown that worried us.
Exactly. 100%.
And we had two very contrasting performances by two running backs. I mean, I do wonder if Eric Gray would have had more carries if it wasn't for that fumble. But it really was a kind of Tracy breakout, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Gray didn't fumble that and punched it in, I think he probably would have got the sort of, not necessarily the lion's share, but he would have got a bigger share of the carries. But 100% breakout for Tyrone Tracy. Now rightly so as well, nominated for Rookie of the Week by the league. So congrats to him, and I hope he gets it because he had a great performance all round. I think obviously the sample going to the question, the sample size obviously is fairly small because it's one game, but everyone, including us, going into the game thought we'd struggle on offense, but it was the complete opposite. So it was almost like where has this come from, really? Obviously we've looked against Dallas. We should have won against Dallas. Against Washington, we should have won against Washington. So we could quite easily be 4-1 right now. But many people have said that. But just these little missteps. There you go. One kicker and a horrific reffing crew away from 4-1. Exactly, mayonnaise. It just so happens we're 2-3. We haven't had the luck of the draw. Haven't had the sort of rub of the green go our way. But now everything, it kind of did go our way this week. But what I don't want to see when Nabers comes back and when Singletary comes back is Nabers getting all the targets again. He was getting a ludicrous amount of targets in the first few weeks, which, we weren't complaining because it was highlighting his skill set and how fucking amazing a receiver he is. He's going to be targeted, but if there ever was a demonstration how there needs to be more number of targets across our receivers, this game was it, because Wandale, Slay, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, Eric Gray, they all caught passes. The only one that didn't get a single target, Jalen Hyatt. What happened with Jalen Hyatt? If there was a game where Jalen Hyatt was going to be sort of break out of his shell this year, this would have been it. And I'm quite worried about his future now because I thought he would have had a bigger part to play in the game than he did. But I think Tracy absolutely has to get more snaps, especially while Motor's rehabbing his injury. It's a groin. They can be a bit niggly. And I think while he's still, limited in practice or whatever like that, just share the load. Give Tracy the ball because he's shown he can run the ball and he can do a good job. So, yeah, I think he definitely needs to see more snaps moving forward.
Yeah, and just to add to that, just quickly, like the Giants are one of those teams that we just like, they say like bad teams find a way to lose games, or good teams find a way to win games. It just shows the small margin of error it is, though. Like I said, how close we were to being 4-1. Do you know what I mean? Those margins are so fine. I mean, the touchdown that was given the fumble, like it's so infuriating because I believe that will cross the plane. But then should he have tried to do the extra effort and just sort of secured the ball? Like that's number one priority. But I think it was easy for them to let it play out and then try and review it. And then the problem was there was no conclusive evidence, is what they're saying. But if they had given the touchdown, I think the touchdown would have stood because there wouldn't have been any conclusive evidence to say that he didn't cross the plane. So it's just like stuff like that's just so infuriating. And also, even though that didn't go our way, I just felt as well that we kind of they did decent on 2-minute drills, drives and stuff like that, but we kind of let them back into it again, and they were in a position to take us to overtime. When I do feel like we need a bit more of that killer instinct that we've talked about in the past to sort of, when we've got a team down, really stamp on their throats, and we're not quite there yet, but we are moving in that direction though, which is really, really good to see. And the defense, I know that you're going to talk about a wee bit, but like how much have they improved from the start of the season? The defense, I mean, it's huge, and it's and that will help us become a better team going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I pass over to Kev, there was just something that I saw. There you go. Maybe for later, but thoughts on the Slayton pointing penalty. He did the same thing one day later. No call. Absolutely. I don't understand how the NFL referees are doing more for gun control in America than anybody else in the country. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Then the government.
It's not a penalty.
Yeah.
It's not a penalty.
It's not like he's doing that. Like, it's not like there's a trigger. He's just pointing for the first down. Like, I don't understand it.
It's exactly that. That's all he's doing. Point the first down. Every wide receiver does it in the league. If you're telling me pointing for the first down is going to be a penalty, then something like Sexy Dexy's dance is going to be a penalty, because that could be touch and go. Like, whether that's sort of like
provocative.
Do you get me? Like, so, but so like, it's a bullshit call, but it just feels like, oh, we're perceived, the way we're looked at as a team. It's like, oh, the Giants, they're rubbish. Just basically, just penalty against. It just feels like we don't get that rub of the green or that benefit of the doubt and stuff like that. Because for me, again, it goes back to the touchdown. That wasn't like, give the touchdown, because all scoring plays are reviewed. So if you're unsure that it crossed the plane or not, give the touchdown, because it's automatically reviewed. Now, if he had been pulled down before taking it all the way back, it wouldn't have been reviewed, because it wouldn't have been a scoring play then. So stuff like that infuriates me, because if he hadn't returned it the whole way and scored a touchdown, it wouldn't have been reviewed. And if it was blatantly over the line, then that would have been a massive, massive injustice on our part. Like, so for me, if it's that close and you're not sure, give it, because it's going to be reviewed anyway. It can be taken away. So just that, and again, it goes back to that penalty. It's not a penalty. It's not. Otherwise, you'd be given penalties constantly in every single game, every week.
Agreed. Right. Do you want to fire through your standout players?
Yeah, I mean, like, just to touch on some of the offensive players, I mean, like, Slayton, got to start there. With Nabers out, Slayton moved into, the X-receiver spot, and he did a good impression of Nabers going out there. He had 8 catches for 122 yards. As you talked about before, catches of 41 and 30 yards. I think it was Doug Analytics put up a stat earlier. It was at 73.3% of the Giants' air yards went to Slayton, the 4th largest share for any NFL receiver this season, the 3rd largest of Slayton's career, and the 4th highest of the Giants since 2016. Now, to contrast, Malik Nabers had 73.5 air yards in week 2. So he was obviously given sort of that number 1 role, and he stepped up. And that's exactly what we needed him to do. All right, there was a drop and stuff like that. And when we talk about Wendell Robinson now, but he was asked to do a job, and he went out and did that job. So you have to commend Slayton for that. So absolutely delighted. And then Robinson, right? So he is that sort of move the chains guy. Do you know what I mean? He's that tough to tackle slot receiver. He had 36 yards on 6 catches. Like, you might say that's not great, is it? But when you add some context into it, he had a 7-yard touchdown catch. 2 of his 6 receptions went for first downs. The Giants use him as a catch and run to move the chains. Yes, he catches a lot of balls before the first down marker, but he's the type of player that can make people miss and get those first downs. So and he had those 2 drops, and 1 was bad. Yes, I get it, but I think drops, though, as this team plays better, those wide receiver drops will reduce. I nearly said drop there, but they will reduce. You'll find, as the confidence comes along. And just looking at Theo Johnson as well, just touch about, we had 5 receptions for 48 yards, the longest of 22. And that one as well, when I talk about that one, with our running game being productive, those linebackers got sucked in on that 22-yard pass. So the play action worked perfectly, because Johnson, with his size and speed, was able to get behind those linebackers, and Daniel Jones picked him perfectly for that pass. So I want to see more of that. Do you know what I mean? But that only works if you've got a good functioning run game, and we had that. And it comes back to the big boys, doesn't it? The offensive line. I mean, Joe was sacked 3 times, but he was only hit on 5 other occasions. after the first play of the game, which was, like you said, Andrew Thomas sack, just tripped over his leg. It's so unfortunate. But again, you're going back to what you said, Dan, about Giants being a bit Giantsy. Here we go. Like these type of things happen to us. But to be able to get back up again, he was protected so well the rest of the game. Not only we've been shouting about the pass protection, and it was there again, but the run, there's lanes opened up. There was pulling guards this time as well. So it was just really, really good to see. I mean, we were seen as one of the worst run blocking lines in the league, but the Giants opened up holes for Tracy and for Jones to be able to get crucial first downs when we needed them. So, I mean, huge shout out goes to the offensive line, and Brasillo is working some kind of magic there, because we haven't had an offensive line like this in so long. Illuminor's just been outstanding at right tackle, and it's so not painful, but so frustrating when you have someone like Illuminor who comes in solid and plays really well, and you have a 7th overall pick in Evan Neal who just can't seem to get it to click when he has all the physical attributes and experience and did it at Bama. But anyway, that's another conversation there. But I know, like, a lot of emphasis is put on players, but one person that deserves props for how the offense bounced back this week, how it bounced back since week 1, that is Brian Dable. Like, just how good was to see another decent performance from the offense, despite missing important players. Dan, like, how big was that?
Massive. I mean, you saw him on the. I don't know if you've seen the video of him on the sideline, of him, just the passion in his the way he's talking to the players, and then as well in the press conference as well, he's like, what did he say? Like, no more wishy washy, get it done, or something like that, wasn't it? And it was just almost like, where's this come from? This is a new Brian Dable. But yeah, I mean, massive credit goes to Dabes for the play call in. I don't remember the last time I felt confident when the offense took the field, and that sort of the longer this sort of game went on, it was almost like there was a bit of an air of confidence when the offense was back on the field, because it was like, we're going to score. I mean, obviously we didn't score every time, but that'd be too good. But I think a lot of that confidence, that has to be because of the O-line, as you rightly said, Kev. I mean, Karen Brasillo and his assistants have so far done an amazing job. I think all 5 games, all 5 starting linemen have played every single snap. That is dependable. It's tough and dependable. Like, the two of the 3 mantras to talk about. Something we haven't seen in far too long. We haven't seen that consistency on the line in a long time. Van Roten's come in, Runyon's come in. They've improved the interior. Obviously, Schmitz has improved as well a lot, and I think he's looking like an absolute steal of a second round pick, for starting center. But Jermaine and Illuminor is just something else. We're not having to worry about pressure on the right hand side anymore, because chances are Illuminor is going to just soak it up. I think he didn't. I don't think he allowed a single pressure against the Seahawks this weekend, if I'm right in saying. And for years we've been missing having a working line, and to have it now, and have a, we said before, just to have an average line, but realistically, it's better than average. We've got a good offensive line. Bar the first week, obviously that was we'll forget about that. But every game since then, it's been a sort of a gradual improvement week in, week out, and it's at the point now where, rather than finding ways to lose a game, we are starting to find ways to win games. But yeah, I think offensive line, fantastic. Yeah, there you go. Illuminor, 0 pressures this week. I mean, that's starting to look like an absolute steal of a trade as well, in all honesty. So fantastic.
Yeah, great in free agency. I mean, like I don't bag on Kafta, because it kind of dynamic was a bit funny last year. But with the offensive line playing so well, it's opening up the playbook for Dable. Now, Craig, do you think he's actually been able to open up his full playbook now, and he's able to implement plays that he might not have been able to last year?
Yeah, and I think that there's two specific plays actually during the game that you can really nail on what he was trying to do. And I really like the fact that actually the first one failed and he went back to it straight away on the second one. So what you had is Eric Gray was supposed to run forward with the ball, flick it back to Jones, and Jones then obviously pick his pass. Now, if you watch the first time that they tried to run that play, Eric Gray had a blitzer like straight there, and he thought, yeah, there's no way in. I'm just going to run this. But straight away after that, Dable went straight back to it. Gray went forward, flicked it back to Jones. Jones, I think, threw the tight end screen to Theo Johnson because I don't think there was anything else that was open.
Yeah.
And we went forward. And I think that that's shown the progression of what Brian Dable wants to do with this offense. Now, obviously, we've already spoken about Hyatt and how he was on the field for, I think, like 70% of the snaps or something around that number.
There's a lot, yeah.
And wasn't targeted. But the thing is I'm happy that they're not forcing it to Hyatt. Hyatt has to earn his targets. I'm not saying that, he's not. I think there was a comment earlier from Brian where he said, can Hyatt get open? Our game plan is the offense just runs through Nabers, Slayton, and Wandale. And it is right. They are the only three wide receivers to catch a pass this entire season so far. Obviously, Hyatt has been targeted. I'm really interested to maybe go back and watch the All-22 because we have such a sustained amount of snaps for Hyatt and just see what's there. Is it that he's not the read on the play? Is it that there's no separation? Is it that he's decoy? Like, what is it there? What's the dynamic there? And that will obviously open up the playbook more for Dable as he goes forward. But all I want to see is that, we've won with Hyatt being the sole focus. We've won without Hyatt. Now we have to do both.
Yeah.
Now we have to win with Hyatt, but also having a functional offense that sees us spread the ball around. Like, it was never sustainable. With Nabers, but it was never sustainable to have Nabers have like 1,700 yards in this offense and have God knows how many targets he's on projection for the end of the season. It's not sustainable for the kid because he'll get injured. Like, we need to protect him as much as we protect the other players, and this is the way that it's going to work.
Yeah, sorry, I just brought that comment up from Bill about Hyatt being effective, but it's putting defenders out of position, so the other guys have a shot at catching the ball. It's a great point he makes. But yeah, I think the point you make, Craig, is absolutely spot on. In all honesty, are we done with offense? Is it time to...
Just before defense, just a question here: how do you guys in the UK watch the late games? Yeah, do you stay up late or watch on replay? I think it depends on the game. Like something like this, or something like the Seahawks game, will stay up. The Bengals game makes it more difficult, especially with work the next day. A lot of the time, I tend to try and watch it on replay and try and avoid the score if I can. It's as Mayo says, it's far from ideal.
No Mets, no Nets, no Jets.
It's probably easier. It might be a little bit easier for you guys, I guess, because you guys work shifts, whereas I do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Just about to say that.
Yeah, you get the odd one.
Hey, I'll be up on Sunday night watching it.
Yeah, see, it's the same as Dan. I'm actually off Monday. I'm not working Monday, so I will stay up and watch it. Or swapping shifts and stuff like that. So it is painful, but at least it's a little bit better than if you live in Australia or somewhere like that, where it's properly in the middle of the night all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be staying up this Sunday. It all depends on what I'm working. If I'm, say for instance, if I'm on an early shift on the Monday, there's not a chance in hell I'm staying up to watch it. I might catch the end of the game when I wake up to go to work, but there's no chance. But I want to add to that. This Sunday night just gone, obviously the Steelers Cowboys. Obviously, there's a massive storm delay, wasn't there? So the game didn't actually finish till I think it was gone 6 a.m. here, which obviously was 1 a.m. in the US. And there was a cool stat. Dak Prescott, the first quarterback to ever pass for a touchdown pass in the same game across 2 different days.
That's quite a cool stat, to be fair. But as Kieran says there, beer and late nights, maybe an Irish thing. I mean, like, nothing beats Sunday drinking. Sunday's the best day of the week to go drinking. So completely advocate for having a few beers on Sunday for football.
Facts. All right, yeah. Defense time, I think. Let's go for it. Come on. Where am I starting? There we go. So yeah, going back to Friday as well. Obviously Craig's mentioned his keys on offense from Friday. My keys on defense from Friday: forced turnovers and stop Kenneth Williams. Stop Kenneth Walker. We forced one turnover. I mean, it may only be one, but it came at a really, really key moment of the game by a player who's not had the best start to the season. A little bit more on that shortly. And then Kenneth Walker, obviously coming off his 80-yard, 3-touchdown game against Detroit. Obviously, he's coming off an injury after that game as well. But this will definitely be one for him to forget. 19 yards on 5 carries on the ground. And, Zach Charbonnet as well, 11 yards on 2 carries. This run defense stepped up big time. Granted, obviously, Geno Smith, he scrambled and ran. I think it ran for 74 yards on 4 carries, maybe. But again, a lot of that was in no huddle. A lot of that was with them chasing the game, and you expected them to do that. So, the defense in no huddle is going to be quite soft. You expect that. So I'm not too bothered about that. The run defense was unbelievable this week, and they found out very, very quickly that they weren't going to be able to run for many yards. So they, I think between the two of them, 7 carries in total between RB1 and RB2 across the game, just shows that their game plan was obviously attack the secondary and attack where our defense is weak. And our defense wasn't weak in the secondary this week. This Giants defense, the Shane Bowen bend but don't break defense, we lead the league in sacks with 22 on the season. And for a defense coming from last year, obviously with Wink and the pressure he brought, to this year with Shane Bowen, and you think sort of he's going to be more, the scheme's going to be different. We're going to play more zone. To lead the league in sacks through 5 weeks, that's a pretty good thing. And it just goes to show that, yes, we might not be bringing the house every snap, but we're still getting the pressure on them. And I think 15 of those 22 sacks have been in 2 games, but I'm taking it. A 7-sack game, absolutely amazing. We after week 1, if you were to say we were leading the league in sacks in 4 weeks' time, I think anyone would have laughed in your face. Mayonnaise, I did lose it when we played man on the 30-yard scramble. Yeah, that was so obvious, but hey, we won the game. I don't care.
I think
we ranked.
I think Dex actually owned up to that one, saying that one was on me. Like he just got into a little bit of argy-bargy with the guard and kind of just got away from his lane to shut that down.
Like the true leader he is.
And also, it's a teaching point. It's something they can take into the film room next week.
Exactly that. In terms of defensive rankings in the league, we rank in the top 12 for total yards allowed per game, points allowed per game, and rushing yards allowed per game. And that's with a depleted secondary and having 3 rookies starting in key positions over the 5 games so far. So if we've got a top 12 defense across 3 major metrics there, I'm taking it. 100% taking it. This defense has shown week in, week out that it can play with the big boys. And a massive reason for the success we had on Sunday is the fact that the Giants' offense was on the field for 37 minutes of the game. So the defense was on the field for 8 minutes in total in the first half. The Seahawks had 4 drives lasting 8 minutes. So going into the second half, when the game was on the line, this defense were fresh. They weren't gassed like they have been previously and, being expected to be on the field for 35, 40 minutes. They were fresh. Chris, Dex is actually a Giants fan. So happy for him. Has to be a blast to play for your fan team. Yeah. I mean, it can't get any better than that, right? But yeah, granted, obviously, the Seahawks moved the ball better in the second half and had a longer sort of possessions too. But like I said, a lot of the success they had was in no huddle, and any defense that's is going to struggle against statistically the best passing offense in the league in no huddle. So again, I kind of expected them to sort of, as they were chasing the game, to be going quick and calling, getting those plays in and not allowing that defense to make the substitutions. And when that happens, you are going to catch them off guard and you are going to catch them out of position because the defensive calls having to come in quick. And, you see it all the time in no huddle offenses in that sort of 2-minute drill where you just get chunk, and you sort of drive the ball down the field really quickly. But in the 4 games since week 1, we've held teams to 21, 15, 20, and 20 points respectively. And a lot of the credit has to go to Shane Bowen and his assistants for what they've achieved with this unit, I think. And like I said earlier about the sort of the pass rush and the pressure we're getting on the quarterback, we only blitzed on 20% of our defensive snaps this week, but we managed 7 sacks. So does that surprise you that they were able to get home so much, Craig?
I guess with the investment on that line, you kind of expect that now. The reason that we've invested so heavily is to formulate a pass rush that we knew we weren't going to have, like send the house like we would do under Wink. And I guess also part of that is because of the fact that they need to be a little softer just to protect that secondary, because most teams are going to know that that's by far our weak point. So I don't. Maybe it is a surprise that they got home that much, but we were going up against an offensive line who, as Tim Booth said on our preview podcast, outside of Charles Cross, wasn't incredible. Like, they were nowhere near the sort of Browns level of poor, but they weren't a strong offensive line. So it would, this is gonna happen. But I think on X, Authentic said something where he said, this defense might have 22 sacks, but they're not a top 5, top 10 unit yet. And I've got to agree with him. Like, they're not. That there's definitely shortfallings in our line and in our linebacker room. I mean, we still miss tackles, etc. But is there more of a scary proposition that once we do tighten things up a bit, that it gets even better? Like, there's a very distinct difference between looking at a unit and going, okay, they're not top 5, and then looking at, raw stats, which says 22 sacks. I mean, you can't, it's very hard to argue the eye test versus pure stats, but it does seem to be a little imbalanced at the moment.
Yeah, Kev, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. But also, I think, like, this game in particular, you talked about it as well, Dan, where, like, the possession, the time of possession, the fact that the defense was able to be so fresh means that that D line can get after it. Because if your offense is keeping you off the field, keeping you fresh, and we're moving the ball successfully, when you get on, you can go with your hair on fire. You can really, really go, and that's the benefit of being able to keep the players fresh. But I think they're starting to sort of settle into Bowen's defense now, and I'd like us to get better. I mean, I think you were saying a lot of metrics were top 12. I mean, I'll take that. Do you know what I mean? And you're moving in the right direction.
100%. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly that. And the way I look at this season as well is, like, it is a make or break season, but we are starting to lay building blocks, and we're building on performances. And yeah, we're not getting the rub of the green and stuff like that, but we will do. We will get those calls that we haven't been getting this year. And I just think, like, if our offense can just keep progressing the ball nicely the way they've been doing, the time of possession, keep the ball in hand, and then the defense can just go out and, like I say, play with their hair on fire, and really give it their all, and cover up for some of those deficiencies that Craig was talking about.
100%, man. Our defense, in my opinion, is only going to get better. So, the fact that we are, like I said, top 12 in a lot of metrics through 5 games, I'm 100% taking it. And yeah, like Bill says, last year our defense was gassed all the time. Couldn't get off the field. Yeah, we might have had some fantastic defenders last year, but because we were on the field so much, it's always going to be difficult. My standout players for the game, well, mine and Shane's standout players for the game. I mean, everything. What more can you say about Dexter Lawrence than hasn't already been said? You know, I think we've run out of superlatives. I think every major Giants beat writer / content creator has run out of superlatives for this man. You know, this guy right here, his jersey's there, up with pride. Yet again on Sunday, he proved why after 5 games, I think as Mayonnaise said, he's in the Defensive Player of the Year running for this season. And to have 6 sacks in 5 games as a nose tackle, as an interior defensive lineman, it's reminiscent of Aaron Donald at his peak. And he's only half a sack shy of the league lead. That's Aiden Hutchinson with 6.5, and he's half a sack shy of that. He's just I don't even think the word disruptive does it any justice. It's like disruptive times 100. 3 sacks on the day, 2 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, and just constant pressure on Geno Smith, constant just shithousery on that defensive line. And not to mention, he's always talking as well. He's always talking. And that's one of the things I love about him the most, is just his banter is top notch. And also, I don't know if you guys have seen it back, but that bull rush on Christian Haynes, the right guard, to get one of those sacks, he just pushes he's a rookie, but he just pushes him backwards and doesn't stop. His legs just keep churning. I mean, any offensive line in the league, I challenge you, stop him if you can, because nobody's been able to stop him so far. So it's Dexter Lawrence. I mean, he was going to be my player of the game, but I'll reveal who I've got as my player of the game later. I feel like I've chosen Dex as my player of the game every week so far, so I thought I'd go with someone different. But go on, Craig.
I just wanted to say that one of the DJ Davidson sacks looked like it was Dexter Lawrence, and I think that's really indicative of what Dex does for this defense. Is that DJ Davidson did the exact same thing that Dex did to Christian Haynes. I can't remember who Davidson was against, but he literally just grabbed him by the pads and just pushed him backwards, and he was able to get the sack. And I genuinely thought the Dex celebration was going to come out afterwards, and then I realised it was Davidson.
It should have done.
I think that's one thing that maybe goes under the radar, is that Dex is so good on the field, but you can also see how good he is off the field at teaching these other young guys how 100%. To go.
Yeah, he is the leader of this defense. I want some chunky soup because of Dex. I absolutely want some chunky soup because of Dex, and that's one of my favourite adverts that's come out in a long, long time. Chunky player of the game like that. Yeah, I mean, I said best nose tackle in the league by far. He is a human wrecking ball, Kieran. It's just an absolute beast of a man. 340 plus pounds, and he moves like he's half that size. So yeah, just what more can you say about him? Next up, Cordell Flott. I think he's gone a little bit under the radar this year. He's not had the best start to the season, but he had by far and above his best game of the season on Sunday, up against the likes of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. He allowed 2 receptions for 14 yards in the entire game, and not a single yard after the catch. He was only second. He was only second behind Banks in terms of coverage grade from PFF, 73.1, which isn't to be sniffed at. He seems to have got rid of that sort of missed tackle bug that he's had over the first 3 or 4 games. And overall, all round, he produced his best game, and in a really tough spot in Seattle, because the crowd is so loud, and it's. I think he showed some of his true colours and some of his true ability on Sunday, and in a spot where we needed to, our secondary needed to step up against the Seahawks' arsenal of weapons. He did, and he had a really solid game, I thought, and I thought he played really, really well, and I think probably one of the best games he's had as a Giant since he got drafted. So, yeah, Cordell Flott was next up on the list for us. And lastly, Spider-Man. the numbers don't jump off. The stat numbers don't jump off the sheet. You know, I think it was 2 tackles, one solo, one assisted, and I can't remember the rest. But I think overall, it was if you watch him on that line throughout the game, overall it was probably his most productive game as a Giant, probably his best game as a Giant so far. Granted, again, it's a small sample size, but it's probably his best game as a Giant so far. It was constantly disruptive off that edge. Again, the offensive line he was up against wasn't great, but I think the Seahawks right tackle was going to be having nightmares after this game because he just didn't know what to do with him. Exactly. He came through when we needed him at the end of the game. At the end of the game, that 4th down in Seattle territory, huge sack. He was untouched as well. He read the offense through the gap exactly. Didn't block him on 4th down through the offensive line, and he's just had a free shot at Geno Smith. And he's starting to show his worth to the fan base, and I think there's so much more to come from him. Obviously, he's a huge investment, but I think there's a lot more to come from him. But as I mentioned earlier, the defense was only on the field for 22 minutes in the game. But how big a contribution overall do you think to the overall performance? Do you think it was, Kev?
Who Burns?
Just in general, in terms of the whole defense, how do you think? How much of a big contribution was it towards the overall performance of the game?
Oh, sorry, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, huge. I mean, being able to go out there and just let loose, and they looked to play freer. I mean, I kind of felt like, you know, there wasn't so many missed tackles. People were wrapping up. You know, Banks kind of looked like a first round cornerback. You know, a number 1 cornerback in the league. Like keeping DK Metcalf to some of his numbers was just, you know, phenomenal for the day. And yeah, like I said, you know, just carry on building these building blocks. I mean, like, you know, the offense is moving the ball. You know, no more like, you know, 3 and outs last year, constantly 3 and outs. This time removing the ball, getting, you know, and it's allowing that defense to be able to come in and play and just play free. And it was huge, man. But it was huge. But also, I think all 3 facets of the game kind of clicked and played well, which is really, really good to see. Even like Jimmy Gillen punting as well, you know, like, you know, him being able to down them in the 20 regularly. I just want to see more of it. And I just feel that apart from that first drive that we keep talking about, or I keep talking about anyway, I wanted to see us blow them out because I felt our play deserved that on offense and on defense. And I just wish it was a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, man. Talking of special teams, talking of Jamie Gillen, Craig, how do special teams get on this week?
Yeah, I mean, like clearly, it's no secret to any of us, but the biggest play of the game, essentially, in the sealer, shall we say, it's going to be covered shortly because, you know, you can't not have players of the game without talking about that play, sort of thing. So, spoilers, I know, but there were other people that performed well on special teams outside of that one play. Again, it kind of seems a bit like a shit sandwich that I've put together here, but oh well. In the short time he's
roll
been
with it, it's fine.
I know. In the short time he's been with the team, Amir Smith-Marset has been a safe pair of hands, but I don't feel like he's offered much. Nothing like what we were getting out of Gunner. He's had 1 kickoff return for 24 yards, 2 punts, 1 fair caught, 1 return for 7 yards. I like the fact that we have another safe pair of hands there and we're not relying on someone like a Dory or Eric Gray or someone else back there to catch this ball. But I just don't see what else he's really bringing to the table at the moment. And that isn't a this game issue that I've noticed it in previous games as well. So I want to see a little bit more out of him. However, you look at that kicking game, Joseph and Gillen. Gillen punted 4 times, landing 1 inside the 20. Only one of his punts was returned. It was only returned for 7 yards. So great job by the punt coverage guys there. And Joseph made both his extra point attempts and all 3 of his field goals from 38, 31 and 24. So really good. I mean, me and Dan had a little joke earlier about like Gano. Is Gano going to disappear? And you look at Joseph's stats, he has been pretty solid. He shanked that first kick attempt that he had in the league, but after that, he's been, I don't want to say spectacular, but he's been reliable enough. He's had one from 50 plus. He's nailed that. He's nailed everything else. He's hitting his extra points. Points win games at the end of the day. So yeah, I've got to say he's good. I just want to see a bigger sample size from him before we kind of make that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's been good. He's done what we've expected him to do. So I think, I think, do we move on from Gano? We need to see more, and we need to find out. Yeah, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets says it's most likely time to move on from Gano. Steve, will he stay or will he Gano? Stop it, get out. It's a good question. It's a good question, but I think we do need to see more from him. All right then, players of the game. Might as well crack on with players of the game, and I'm starting off mine. Albeit it happened on special teams. He's still a defender as well. Isaiah Simmons. I mean, I was going to go for Dex for the first 59 minutes and 5 seconds of the game. I was thinking Dex is my player of the game here. Dex is my player of the game here. And then Isaiah Simmons steps up, and just an absolutely unbelievable play. Game-winning field goal block. Done. Thanks very much. And game ball goes to Isaiah Simmons. Huge credit as well to special teams coordinator Mike Gabriel as well. What was it on? Might have been on Talking Giants. Might have been on Giant Insider, one or two. But they said that Gabriel had noticed. It was on Giant Insider. Biz said that Gabriel had noticed this chance on Seattle's kicks during the week, watching tape, and he'd noticed there was a gap that they could exploit. And throughout the game, Gabriel said to him, I think at one point, do we go with it? And Dave was like, no, like keep it under wraps for now. And so to call that play on a game tying field goal attempt as you go in, potentially going into overtime, to call that play is massively ballsy. But hats off to Gabriel for noticing that and coming up with a plan for it. And I tip my hat to Isaiah Simmons for making the play, because so much could have gone wrong. All he had to do was touch one of the linemen, and it would have been a flag and a first down. So much could have gone wrong. It's such high risk, high reward, and it came off, and we win the game. Ice the game and job done.
I think it was the other way around. I think Daves was keen to get that blocked field goal early. He was keen, and Gabriel was like, no, leave it with me. And
that was
saved it for the best time, basically.
Literally. Yeah, so Isaiah Simmons. Player of the game for me. Who's up next, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, for me in offense, a couple of players you could have gone with, but I think the day Tyrone Tracy had, I mean, he's fifth round rookie out of Purdue, converted wide receiver, converted running back. He had 18 carries for 129 yards, no fumbles. Do you know what I mean? He's made a case for a bigger role, whether Singletary is healthy or not going forward. He had explosive runs of 27 and 25 yards. He also had a 13-yard run. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry. I think Craig mentioned this as well earlier. He's the only running back in the NFL to gain positive yards on every single run in a game with 15 plus attempts during this 2024 season. I mean, he looked quick. He looked agile. He had a couple of great jump cuts. He had speed on the outside. He ran north and south when he needed to and picked up positive yardage regularly. He followed his blockers. He let pulling guards get into position. He slowed down to follow them to and then make the correct read off their blocks. Just a great day. I mean, the only thing, we just wanted a touchdown for him. Do you know what I mean? After having such a good game like that, but he was high in a lot of boards in the draft. There was something there. Only 1 year experience at running back. He just seems like such a natural runner. Like he has really good feel running behind the offensive line. So, I have to give it to him. What a day for the rookie.
Yeah, fantastic outing for him, and fully deserved, because he just looked so natural then. And you forget it, he was a receiver in college, right? He converted to a running back in his final year at college. So the fact he's had a year and 5 games as a pure running back, it is crazy. But yeah, what a great game from him, I think. Is it Shane's up next? Yeah, Shane's up next. I'll read out Shane's. So I think the only other defense player we hadn't mentioned is kind of obvious going to be, but Tay Banks. Welcome to 2024, Deontay Banks. The Seahawks first. Banks closed on Sunday. It was 2 days ago. Banks showed some real bounce back ability this week. What a word that is, bounce back ability. Come on.
Soccer AM references it.
You know it. Seahawks first drive of the second half, game tied at 10. Long completion on first down to Tyler Lockett. Kenneth Walker's longest run of the day, albeit 7 yards. Then it was second and short of the Giants 31. In our territory, looking like they're probably gonna score and make it 17-10 game when they didn't deserve to be in the lead. Geno Smith completes for a first down to DK Metcalf. Enter Tay Banks. Ball stripped, recovered by Tyler Nubin. 4 plays and 77 yards later, it's a 17-10 Giants lead. So a huge potential 14-point swing there. It could have been 17-10 the other way, but no, it's 17-10 Giants lead. And that momentum shift was, you could see it. The Seahawks were gaining confidence, but driving on, in that first drive of the second half. And what a great play from him. And it was a huge game for him as well. Obviously, he had a lot of critics and doubters going into the game that said, he's not been the same. It's not been the same player this season so far, and he held DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, one of top 10, top 15 receivers in this league, held him to 2 catches on 4 targets for 24 yards. And he was on him for 35 or 47 snaps, and he held him to 2 catches on 4 targets across those 35 snaps. So huge game for Banks. And then mixing as well that key pass breakup on third down, again with the Hawks driving. It just signaled a return to his form we saw in the rookie season. And he closed up shop, and that bank was shut. Overall, I said, Tay Banks, welcome to 2024. Player of the game for Shane. And lastly, Craig.
It's no shocker that it's going to be Daniel Jones. It has to be Daniel Jones, to be honest. The way that he managed the game was such a key component of how we won this game. He kind of showed that rookie mentality in his rushing, but sort of even really his the 2022 season, Daniel Jones in his rushing, where he was able to cut a little bit and really move the sticks. I really, really like the fact that there was the play where he's being held by one of the defenders as he's running forward. Another defender tries to run in and smash him in the ribs, injures himself. Jones gets up, looks down at him like, "What are you doing?" and then walks away. So, big props to him. He's obviously feeling the confidence starting to flow back through him, and you can see that by his kind of demeanor on the field. And he's never going to be like, big dick and swinging it around, but he'll be enough of, he'll show enough confidence in the way that he does. 23 of 34 completed, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 109.6 quarterback rating, 38 yards on the ground. Those 38 yards actually made history because Daniel Jones is now the first ever Giants quarterback to eclipse 2,000 yards rushing. He's well ahead of Phil Simms, who I think is in the 1,200 range. So, he was already the leader, but to eclipse 2,000 yards rushing, I guess the game has evolved and, rushing quarterbacks are more of a thing these days. So it was bound to happen. But, to get there is still an achievement for somebody who obviously is is much maligned, and rightly so in certain aspects. I'm not saying that this absolves him of some of the shortcomings, and we just want to see DJ play well. That's it. He just needs to play well. That's all we want to see. Now, since week 1, which, as we well know, was awful. Jones has actually been one of the most proficient quarterbacks in the league. He ranks 5th in overall efficiency, which kind of puts a QB's EPA per play versus their completion percentage above expected. And he ranks around sort of the 5th, 4th mark overall. So he's really stepped up his game. During that time, so from week 2 to week 5, he's 92 of 136 for 952 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I'd like to see a few more touchdowns. I'd like to see us be a bit more proficient in the red zone. It's one area that we're still a little bit lacking. I know we had the 2 touchdowns this week, but it would be nice to see a few more there. But I think we're trending in the right direction as a team, and Daniel Jones is a big part of it.
Massive part of it. And let's not forget that 1 interception was on a Hail Mary. So,
yes,
I mean,
that's very true.
I don't even really credit him with that interception because you haven't got a choice in that situation. I mean, he's just been solid, hasn't he? And I think I looked into it earlier. If he carries on the way he's going, he's going to finish the season with 391 completions from 612 attempts. That's a 64% completion rate for just shy of 4,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Now, if you put that stat line out there at the beginning of the season and said Daniel Jones is going to have this stat line in 2024, is he the starting quarterback next year?
No,
because that's a pretty solid stat line. So you've got to have a real good reason to go, he's not the man if he's come off of that type of season. If he's coming off a 4,000 yard season, you've got to have a real good reason to go, you know what, he's not the guy. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying
touchdowns in there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's the consistency as well, year to year. It's the consistency year to year. Like,
exactly.
17 games is equally a lot and not a lot in the same sentence. Like, you have to do it consistently, and there's certain things as well outside of the stats that he needs to do. One of them he could do on Sunday night if he fancies it, which is to win in prime time. Win in front of the cameras, have a good game in front of the cameras. Like that. That's one way that you could look at it. But yeah, there are
learn to slide.
Yeah, I think there is a way maybe that you could keep him on next year and have so say we're picking in the 17 plus range and you draft a quarterback in the 17 plus range. You're not drafting a quarterback. I mean, most quarterbacks shouldn't really be starting straight away anyway, in my opinion, but you're probably drafting a quarterback that isn't going to start straight away. So do you keep Daniel Jones there ready to hand the torch because he's coming off of a good season? Maybe. But I think I don't think 5 games and projection kind of solidifies him as being everyone's option for 2026 or 2025, just yet.
No, not at all. I think it's obviously just the fact that he's been so consistent over these 4 games. It's almost like people are starting to sort of change their narrative on him, and it's almost like, well, like 4 weeks ago, everyone was saying he's dog shit and he's not going to be the guy next year. But now there are people saying, okay, yeah, he could be the guy. So I just want to sort of get your guys' take on it. But yeah, overall, I'm not surprised you chose him as your player of the game. So I thought he had a really good game. Those stat lines say, oh, really? So yeah, Daniel Jones, nice one. Alrighty, have we got any questions from the viewers, Craig?
There was one from a while ago that I just want to kind of bring up because it's an interesting one. Because Mario said, if he plays like this every week, 40 million is cheap. Has to be every week. And then has also said, if he shows consistency, you keep him. 40 million is mid-pack. For a QB starter salary, he's mid-pack starter. And then Brian said, where would DJ rank among QBs financially if we do keep him. Now I know that was also answered. My God, thank you for all the comments tonight because I'm having to go back
It's a
miles to
lot.
try and find this.
Yeah.
I think Mayo said 15th now. Mayo, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm
Mid-range.
guessing you were answering that. I've looked on over the cap at the 2025 quarterback salaries, and he would rank 10th in cap hit with 41 million, behind Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Matt Stafford, Derek Carr, Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. And Dak Prescott sitting pretty at the top with a cap hit of 89.8 million. God damn. So he would sit about 10th on there. And I'm just thinking, like, is that enough? Like, if he had that kind of season, would you keep him around to be the 10th highest cap hit for a quarterback next season, Kev?
I think it's an interesting one, and you have to think about the dead money right here. So you think about, so he's what on the books for 41.6 next year. Now, if you cut him, you don't get that 41 back. You make 19. So the cap savings is 19 if you cut him. Now, if you draft a rookie in mid level of the first round, you know you're going to want a starter for him to sit behind for at least the first half of the season. That's going to cost you 10 million. Do you mean to bring in a seasoned vet to see his potential starter? So it's, I mean, I would lean to yes, because the cap saving isn't as much as you'd hope. But if you're getting a bona fide starter at quarterback, I mean, we hope this doesn't happen now. But if you were picking top 5 and you got the guy or the guy you want, then you could let him go. But it's just, I think we'll end up I think we'll do what we always do and price ourselves out of the top tier rookie QB market. So Daniel Jones could very well be your best option at that price point.
I mean, it's more up in the air now than it was at the beginning of the season, but I'm sure it will become a lot clearer, hopefully, as the season goes on. But it's food for thought, right? I don't believe there's any more questions, was there, Craig?
No, that's it.
No? Fantastic. All right. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. We will be back on Friday at 8:30 to preview the Bengals game. Sunday night football, baby. NBC. Make sure you tune in then. Anything else to add before we go?
No, good. I mean, like, it just, again, it comes back to, I know people we're on about early on in the season about the tank train and stuff like that, but going out there and winning football games and winning them deservingly is so much better. Like, I mean, this is what it's about. You want to see your team be successful on the field. And again, all 3 phases of the game, we were better than the Seattle Seahawks. You are a good team. So let's build on that. Let's go out. Bengals are there for the taking. Now, if Daniel Jones can play mistake-free football next week and outshine Burrows, we have a real chance to go 3-3 and keep this sort of this hype train, not tank train, rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you would have said to me a few weeks ago, would we be as optimistic as we all sound right now? Probably not. But it does feel like a few weeks ago on the Giant Insider podcast, Biz was saying we're close. We're close. We're like, we just need the things to fall into place. And then last week he says this could be a signature win. And I think he's right. Like, this could be a signature win. You look at the games coming up. You look at the Bengals coming up. Well, they've kind of been. I mean, bungles would be a bit harsh, probably, but they have.
The defense isn't great.
No, their defense isn't great. I mean, Jamar Chase is something to worry about, but we'll cover that later in the week. But after that, you look at the games after. We've got Philly. Now, Philly aren't looking like the Philly that you get worried about over the last few years. You look at the Steelers, who just got done over by the Cowboys, who aren't great. After that, you've got the Commanders, who probably worry me the most out of all the games we have coming up before the bye. And then Munich. Like, we could be anything by the bye week
Yeah.
here, like literally anything. Whereas before we were talking about, oh, we're only going to win one game and we're going to be 1-9 going into the bye week or whatever it is. So it's exciting. It's exciting times in a really weird, screwed up way.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we could quite easily be 7-3 going into the bye week.
Well,
But also we could quite easily be 2-9 going into the 2-8 going into the bye week. You know, we could sort of lose the next 5 games, could win the next 5 games. So, you know, there's definitely some winnable games coming in the next 5 weeks. So I think it's not as doom and gloom as we all thought maybe it was a few weeks back. But yeah, we can't. I think we have to temper our expectations a little bit and just take it week by week. I think great week this week. Obviously, the Bengals game. It's Sunday night, prime time at MetLife. I'm not overly confident at the moment, but it is a winnable game. It 100% is a winnable game. Jamar Chase scares the absolute hell out of me, so it's going to be an interesting one. And the one last thing as well about the Seahawks game, I just want to jump in before we go. In Seattle, 12th man, one of the loudest stadiums in the league. The offensive line didn't commit a single procedural penalty. No false starts.
I don't think
Nothing.
they've committed a pre-snap penalty on that offensive line the entire season. I might be wrong, but I did hear that somewhere.
Yeah. But to go into Seattle and not do that is unreal. And I heard that I can't remember where I heard it. Again, it was on another podcast. But Daves was in the mix, just screaming at them. They'd like to play loud music, but no, Daves was in there screaming in their faces, getting really loud in their faces to try and prepare them for it. So, props to the offensive line for not committing any penalties, and that was a big, again, another big part of the reason why the Giants won this game. But yeah, lots to look forward to this weekend. Friday, obviously, make sure you tune in 8:30. We're going to preview the Bengals game, and it is a winnable game. So check out our socials, all the latest news, all the updates, things like that. Follow the links in the description, and give this episode a big thumbs up. Any sort of latest news we put out on our socials all the time. Thanks to everyone for watching, for commenting, for getting involved. There's, like Craig said, there's been so many comments, you kind of lose track of them. So really appreciate the love. It's great to see some new viewers as well, some new names in there. I think No Mets, No Nets, No Jets is probably one of my favourites. So welcome to the pod. Hope you tune in next time. But yeah, thanks for everyone for watching and listening this evening, for your comments and everything. And also, my thanks as ever go to Kev, to Craig for joining me. We're signing off. Until next time, we're 2-3, baby. Let's go Giants.